The story begins with the Bellamont family, known as the most prestigious noble family in the empire, famously dubbed the Iron-Blooded Duce. Despite the magnificence of the ducal palace, a thunderous cry pierced its silence, for the palace was never free from turmoil and noise. The young red-haired lady, Lucilla Lil Fry, wonders in amazement at the cause of this chaos. The reason for all of this was her dearly beloved nephew Lucien, who was sitting amidst the mess before turning to her with a bright smile. The heir to the Duce, Lucien Bellamont, ran toward her, asking why she was so late in coming. Lucilla looked around at the utter chaos, then firmly asked Lucien if he was the one who did it. While the little one clung to her leg, she resolved within herself that this situation could not be tolerated and that she must scold him properly this time. But before she could begin her reprimand, Lucien beat her to it by calling her auntie, expressing how much he had missed her, and then innocently asked if she had missed him too. In the face of this, her resolve, she hugged him gently and said she had missed him. She even started apologizing for coming late. Suddenly, Lucilla realized she was the one apologizing and almost forgot what had happened. At the last moment, she regained her senses and remembered Lucien's mischief. She looked around the room and saw flowers scattered everywhere. Lucien happily explained that playing with dough was fun and invited her to join him. Lucilla then noticed water splashed across the floor, which made it dangerously slippery. The little boy asked her to put him down because he wanted to show her something. Excitedly, he demonstrated how he could make bird footprints using his palm. Lucilla looked around, wondering where his nanny and the servants were. She soon spotted them standing nearby, looking completely exhausted, as if Lucien's endless energy had drained them. Lucien grew even more excited and suggested that everyone should play with the dough together. His suggestion immediately filled both Lucilla and the servants with panic. To stop Lucien from causing more trouble and becoming disliked by the servants, Lucilla decided to take him outside. She suggested they go and play in the garden instead. However, as she bent down to speak to him, her foot slipped on the wet, flour-covered floor. She suddenly lost her balance and fell. Two servants rushed toward her in shock, ready to help her up and carry her to bed. But Lucilla lay on the floor laughing. Lucien also burst into loud laughter, thinking her fall was very funny and calling her clumsy. As she watched him laugh, Lucilla wondered how she would ever manage to raise such a mischievous child. Her thoughts drifted back 12 years. At that time, she was the second daughter of the Lil Fry family. She lived peacefully with her parents and her older sister. But that peaceful life ended suddenly when her parents died in a tragic carriage accident. After their deaths, her uncle took advantage of the situation and seized the family title he had always wanted. Not satisfied with that, he forced her older sister, the rightful heir, to marry the Duke of Bel. The marriage was unhappy from the start. The Duke already had another lover, leaving her sister trapped in a cold and loveless marriage in the duchy. Even while suffering, her sister worried about leaving Lucilla alone with their cruel uncle. So she made one final request to the Duke. She asked him to allow Lucilla to live with her in the Duke's palace. The Duke coldly agreed and told her to do whatever she wanted. Her sister felt a deep sense of relief. However, he gave one condition: she must never interfere in his affairs or question the people he met. For Lucilla's sake, her sister accepted the painful condition. Lucilla then moved into the Duke's residence. She still remembered meeting her sister again, who happily said they would depend on each other from now on. A few years later, her sister gave birth to Lucien, a child Lucilla treasured deeply. During those joyful days, Lucilla would sit beside her sister while she held baby Lucien, feeling happy whenever he grabbed her hand. Her sister once joked that Lucien seemed to love his aunt very much, but just as their small family started finding happiness again, tragedy struck. Her sister suddenly became terminally ill. Before dying, she asked Lucilla to stay beside Lucien and protect him, apologizing for leaving them behind. After saying those words, her sister passed away, and a grand funeral was held in the ducal palace. Lucilla was supposed to return to her family home afterward. However, while wandering through the palace corridors, she anxiously searched for little Lucian. She found him in a quiet hallway, holding a doll that resembled his mother while silently trying to stop his tears. With trembling eyes, he asked her if she would leave him too. Seeing the child crying alone in the corner, Lucilla could not walk away. She realized that if she left, he would be completely alone in this world. So she decided to stay in the ducal palace. The Duke, who had always been indifferent toward his son, treated Lucilla like nothing more than a nanny. But his indifference allowed her to remain by Lucian's side. Back in the present, Lucilla began losing consciousness after her fall. In that moment, a strange feeling of doubt filled her mind. In her fading awareness, she apologized to her sister's spirit for failing to raise Lucian properly. Because of his behavior, people around him had started avoiding him. Even when she fell, he only laughed like a villain. The word villain Lucian suddenly triggered a memory in her mind. She realized she had seen this story before. At that moment, memories of her past life returned, along with a novel she had once read titled From an Illegitimate Child to the Head of the Family. She finally understood the shocking truth. This world was the setting of that very novel. The story's hero was Edwin Bellamont, the Duke's illegitimate son who rose to become the head of the family through his extraordinary abilities. But the reason for his ambition was the cruel oppression he suffered from his half-brother, the main villain of the story. And that villain was none other than Lucian Bellamont, her nephew. Lucian, neglected by his father and filled with resentment, would grow into a cruel mastermind who tormented Edwin eventually. The hero would defeat him, and Lucian would meet a tragic and gruesome end. Lucilla woke up in shock, realizing it was not a dream. The servants around her sighed with relief as she regained consciousness, but the terrifying truth remained. The boy she loved like her own child was destined to become the story's villain and die horribly. At that moment, Lucian approached her nervously, clutching his doll and apologizing sincerely. He explained he only wanted to share the fun of playing with Flower and asked if she was still hurt. Seeing his innocent concern, Lucilla hugged him tightly. Overwhelmed with emotion, she silently made a vow to her late sister. She promised she would protect Lucian no matter what and change his terrible fate. She would raise him into a kind person and never allow him to become the villain of the story. However, Lucian's mischievous nature was already famous throughout the palace. Despite his adorable appearance, he constantly caused trouble, scribbling on servants' clothes, breaking antiques, and laughing at the chaos he created. One day, he even placed an insect in Lucilla's hand just to see her scream. Lucilla realized that if no one guided him properly, he would indeed grow into the villain described in the novel. In the original story, the real Lucilla eventually left the palace because she could not handle the humiliation and the burden of raising him. When Lucian saw the only person who cared about him leaving, his heart twisted with despair. That moment marked the beginning of his dark transformation. But this time, Lucilla decided things would be different. She would stay and raise him properly. Still, she admitted to herself that she knew almost nothing about raising children. As she thought about how to correct his behavior, Lucian suddenly offered her tea. When she drank it, she discovered it was extremely salty. Lucian proudly revealed that he had secretly added salt as an experiment, saying the salt tea could defeat villains. Normally, she would have praised his creativity, but this time, she firmly said no. She explained that such behavior was wrong and that he must learn manners and respect others. Lucian protested, saying he only cared about having fun. Lucilla patiently asked him how he would feel if someone laughed while he was hurt. After thinking for a moment, he admitted it would not be fun at all. Encouraged, Lucilla hugged him and told him she believed he could change. Lucian looked surprised, but promised he would try. Lucilla felt hopeful, believing her determination would guide him toward kindness. Unfortunately, she did not know that her resolve would be tested again the very next day. The next day, Lucian's name echoed loudly throughout the palace. Lucilla rushed through the halls searching for him, calling for him to come out immediately. Lucian suddenly appeared calmly and asked if she had returned. Her eyes followed where he pointed on the floor, and she was stunned into silence. He proudly showed off his new look and asked if it suited him. For a moment, his cuteness softened her anger, and she thought he looked adorable in anything. But she quickly remembered why she came. The chaos outside the room was caused by Lucian cutting Baron Churn's precious beard without permission. When Lucilla reminded him how much the Baron valued his beard, Lucian simply replied that he only wanted to make it look more elegant. Exhausted, Lucilla held her head and begged him to stop causing trouble. She realized that after losing his mother, Lucian had developed a strong desire for attention. If she ignored this, he might act out even more just to gain her focus. She thought that letting him interact with children his age might help him change. Then an idea appeared in her mind. She remembered the hero of the novel and realized he could play an important role in Lucian's future. Lucilla told Lucian firmly that there would be no play today and that he needed to reflect on what he had done. Lucian tried to argue, but she stood by her decision. When she told him she had to go out, he asked nervously if she was angry with him. She reassured him that she wasn't, and said she was leaving to do something important for him. She instructed him not to cause any trouble while she was gone. Lucian reluctantly agreed, but asked her to come back quickly. Lucilla's carriage set off toward the Fosner orphanage, where the hero of the original novel, Edwin, was currently living. Her plan had two goals: to build a positive relationship with the future hero, and to learn proper parenting by observing how other children behaved. When the luxurious carriage arrived, the children peeked through the windows in curiosity. They wondered if the noble visitor had come to adopt someone. Among them stood a silver-haired boy with red eyes and winkily observing the mysterious guest. As Lucilla entered the orphanage, she was shocked by what she saw. The place was filthy, even worse than many rural shelters. Rats ran across the floor, and the children wore torn clothes while cleaning the dirty rooms. Lucilla asked the staff why the children were doing all the cleaning. The official claimed the children insisted on doing it themselves, but Lucilla immediately recognized the lie. The director soon greeted her, apologizing for not preparing the children properly for her visit. His careless attitude made Lucilla even more suspicious. He asked if she had a specific type of child she preferred to adopt. Lucilla forced a polite smile while suppressing her anger at how he treated the children like objects. While touring the orphanage, Lucilla noticed a child hiding in a corner. The boy had silver hair like moonlight and deep red eyes. She instantly recognized Hemy Bellamont, the hero of the novel, from an illegitimate child to the head of the family. Edwin was the illegitimate son of Duke Bellamont and a common woman named Iris. After discovering she was pregnant, Iris left the Duke to protect the child from a harsh fate. Years later, Iris died from tuberculosis, leaving young Edwin alone. With nowhere else to go, he eventually ended up in the orphanage. Lucilla confirmed in her mind that she had found the future hero. Since his conflict with Lucian would only happen years later, she believed forming a relationship with him now could change the future. But Edwin was frightened by her gaze and quickly ran away. Lucilla blamed herself for approaching him too suddenly. The director returned and asked if she had chosen a child. Lucilla replied that she wanted to spend time with the children first before making any decisions. She suggested having a meal with them, which made the director visibly nervous. Lucilla hinted that if it was inconvenient, she could simply leave and return another day. Afraid to lose a wealthy visitor, the director immediately agreed. During the meal, Lucilla sat with the children and noticed something disturbing. The toys were broken and dirty, and some were even contaminated with rat urine. She also saw that certain children received better clothes and larger portions of food than others. It was clear the orphanage favored children who looked more likely to be adopted. The injustice made Lucilla furious, but she tried to remain calm. Suddenly, a blonde girl sitting nearby asked Lucilla if she thought they looked pitiful. The girl calmly said that although they lived in this terrible place, they didn't want people to pity them too easily. Lucilla admired the girl's maturity and apologized, saying she never meant to look down on them. Then a realization struck her. She remembered that another important character from the novel might also be living in this orphanage. Lucilla gently asked the girl for her name. After a moment of silence, the girl replied that her name was Amelia. Lucilla froze in shock. This child was Amelia Agrees, the heroine of the novel and the rightful heir of the powerful Agrees family. In the original story, Amelia lost her parents in a tragic carriage accident and disappeared during the chaos. After suffering temporary memory loss, she wandered alone until someone found her and brought her to this orphanage. Even after recovering her memories, Amelia chose not to reveal her identity because greedy relatives would try to exploit her inheritance. Instead, she decided to wait for the only person she trusted, her uncle. While living in the orphanage, Amelia used her strong and kind personality to protect Edwin and the other children. Realizing she was now sitting beside both the future hero and the heroine of the story, Lucilla understood that this moment could greatly influence the future. Lucilla asked Amelia about her age, and Amelia calmly replied that she was 7 years old. Lucilla quietly realized that the events of the original story were beginning much earlier than she expected.